Check 1 2 1 2. Test 1 2.
Check 1 2 1 2. Hey hey. Check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Hey hey. Mic check. Mic check 1 2 1 2. 3 4 1 2 3 4.
I'm going to start. Yeah, we'll start. We'll start on time. At least we'll try. Okay, it's 5:15, so we're going to start. Keeping in the tradition of we always start our meetings on time from our chairman, Chairman Berg, right? So I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This is the Meet the Candidates forum, and you will hear from three potential candidates, or they are the candidates. One will not be presenting, Willard Brown, who's on the ballot. I think he has something to do this evening. So we're going to have one individual that is on the ballot, and those were properly sent out to everybody last week, and we've received some ballots back already, and we have two write-in candidates, and we anticipated that we will have write-in candidates because there's 3 open board positions, and 2 individuals submitted their names and credentials in the allowed time so that they're actually on the ballot. So we have 1 open spot that will be available to be elected through a write-in ballot or a write-in nomination, as well as a nomination from the floor at the annual meeting. So last foray of serving on the board. It's enjoyable, I wouldn't, but it's not what I would say entertaining. It's important, and it is a commitment. We meet once a month, and most of the board members also serve on committees, and so there's another hour or 2 or 3 in addition to that. So it's the third. There she is. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Patricia. Thank you.
Good deal. Well, thank you, Clay. I wish I was tall enough to need that up there, but I can't grow. I can share all my experience with you, but I can't get taller. Thank you all for coming this evening. I appreciate this opportunity to be a write-in candidate. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, my background, my full name, Patricia Carvajal Clough, with those little CPA initials at the back of it, which I think is important because I'm going to highlight some of my financial experience and all of my experience in public accounting. I've spent almost 39 years in large public accounting firms, starting with Pete Marwick, way back when there was 8 of those big firms, time at Arthur Andersen, and then most recently, the last 15 years at Deloitte in Washington, D.C. Most of my career was spent in Dallas. The first 25 years of my career were in Dallas, Texas, the last 15 in Washington, D.C. with Deloitte. Always on the tax side, always serving large business tax clients. I have my CPA certified in both Texas and Virginia. And my accounting degree, way back when, it seems like a long, long time ago, but still remember it fondly, all those great college years at the University of Notre Dame. Graduated there in 1984 in accounting, and have always enjoyed the accounting side of it, the financial analysis, the people, and the opportunities that has brought being with large global companies. My background, obviously, this many years in public accounting, was successful by being very detail-focused, very analytical, having significant experience in project management, time process redesign. We do a lot in a short amount of time, have deadlines, a lot of deliverables, and the focus on that has always been very important. I also feel that I'm a good listener and build strong relationships with my clients At Arthur Andersen, I'll never forget the time they said, we're going to give you this client because it is the worst client we have at the moment, and you are the newest senior manager we have, so do something with it. But the CFO has been through 6 senior managers in the last 2 years. So see what you can do. She doesn't like anybody. So I was bound and determined to figure out a way that this CFO was going to like me. And after my first lunch with her, I decided that was a real tall order. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. But it really came from listening to her at that lunch, thinking she doesn't really like me very much yet, but she doesn't even know me yet, and really listening to her and hearing what her complaints were. And I think that's just important in how we deal with everything. Listening to the community, hearing what people are saying, and trying to think through ways. We can't fix everything, but a little bit at a time, making a difference, hearing and trying things. I tried a few different things with her, and I finally hit on the one thing that really worked. I invited her to the great Arthur Andersen seats at a hockey game. And I knew nothing about hockey. She loved hockey. She's like, nobody has ever invited me to sit in these front row seats. She said, the only problem now is you're not paying attention to the game. You just brought me. I'm like, well, I just brought you. I said, I don't know it. I don't understand what's going on. She's like, well, read the program, figure it out, and then this is the perfect evening. So I think that's just to represent, we all, have our ways of listening and hearing and trying to problem solve. And we all can do it in unique ways and bring something to the table. She became my best client, and she retired. She was a little bit older than me, so she's been retired for about 15 years, but we're still friends to this day. And I think relationships are critical too in anything you do. Making relationships with the members of our community and becoming friends with members of our community. Those are important pieces too, not just being financially oriented or project management focused, but enjoying people and enjoying meeting the people we live amongst. We moved to San Antonio. We were a COVID move. DC was a difficult place to live during the pandemic, and it was shut very tight. There was a lot going on with the elections and the protests and various things. So we started thinking towards retirement. We knew retirement was coming, didn't know exactly when, but we thought, having grown up in San Antonio, having family here, my sister here in the audience, thank you for coming and supporting, who's lived here since the late 80s, and just having gone to Incarnate Word High School, at the back of my mind, I thought, been gone from San Antonio for 40 years, but this might be the right time to consider moving there in anticipation of retirement and a different chapter of life. I convinced my husband that the Dominion was the only place to live in San Antonio, so it is the only community we looked at. We were looking in the summer of 2020, was a little bit difficult with COVID, but we found our perfect spot in the Estates on Reading Lane. We love it. It's an older home that we have fixed up, and we have fabulous neighbors, and it's really come to feel like home in just the short, little over 2 years that we've lived here. And we've also commented on, in all the places we live, we've moved a lot, always within Dallas or DC. I think people get upset when they say, we could scratch we have so many scratches for you in our address book that we put you in pencil now because we know it's going to change. So this time I can confidently tell them, you can ink this one in. We intend to stay here and be part of this community from now on. And our main reason for picking the Dominion, we knew a lot about it through Carolyn and Chuck Rubel, who've been here, but it was really kind of that sense of community when we came to visit. We had been able to we were guests of Carolyn and Chuck at the New Year's Eve parties a couple of years, and just kind of loved the people we met during that, driving around, the niceness of the community, the niceness and friendliness of the people. The security was a part of it, having the manned gated gates, and all of that, just the whole package, having the Dominion Country Club right here with all that it offers. It's really what drew us to it and helped me convince my husband that San Antonio was the right city and the Dominion was the right community within San Antonio. I strongly feel, based on that, we are the premier community in San Antonio. I love where we live. I love how pretty it is. I feel proud every time I cross into Dominion Drive coming over the bridge, and just, it's so pretty. We had a wonderful house in Dallas, but I think, and it's a little more diverse, but the neighborhood as a whole, while it was a great Dallas neighborhood, it wasn't all pretty. This is so cohesive and pretty and thoughtfully done from a landscaping and a pulling it all together standpoint. I think that's really what makes it special and makes it proud for us to say we live here. Even my friends have said, wow, we thought you were getting ready for retirement. You moved up in the world. You moved into a mansion. And we feel like it's our mansion. It's beautiful. And coming from D.C., we didn't have quite the space or the community we have here. We love D.C., and we loved where we lived, but we do have a whole lot more space and square footage. We can move around, and in retirement, one of us can get lost on one side of the house and the other can stay on the other. But we really do like it. I think, how will I have time? I think the time comes in I retired from Deloitte in December, just this past December. For the accomplishments at Deloitte that I'm most proud of, and most recent was I led a very experienced proposal team of over 12 partners and managing directors. And it was a proposal for a very large tax compliance and consulting engagement. It was very competitive, with 5 firms being asked to participate in the RFP. It was competitive fee-wise, it was competitive scope-wise, and it was a very difficult negotiation because all of us partners amongst ourselves did not agree. We didn't agree to the approach, we didn't agree to the fee, we didn't agree to what should be in scope and what should be out of scope. And being the lead on that proposal and having the relationship with the client, I had to figure out a way to trust me more and at least give me an edge in the negotiations to lean towards what I was getting the read on from my client. It was for one of the top 5 national REITs in the country, and it was over $15 million in tax fees. So it was a huge project. They took quite a while to decide. We had a number of oral presentations. We had a number of follow-up questions. And in the end, I was very happy and proud to say we won that work. And I stayed at Deloitte to get that all transitioned and ready to deliver and gear up the team, staff up the team, train the team, and leave everybody very comfortable that could be my legacy, that would get done in my absence, but it was going to get done very well. The other thing I did was I led a team of 20, and I'll say young professionals, and that part's going to be important in a minute, you'll see why, both in the US and in India. So I had experience leading virtual teams, spent over a year in India throughout my time at Deloitte, leading teams, training young teams. These were young professionals in India that did not have accounting backgrounds, did not know US tax, and they were being taught to do complicated US tax. So I invested a significant amount of time in mentoring them, training them, trying to write training in such a way that we could break it down to where it was understandable to someone without the benefit of our accounting backgrounds and tax backgrounds in the US. And we accomplished completing over 500 filings on a very tough time frame, which that represented almost 15,000 man-hours, as we like to call it, of work. And the first year on that was very, very difficult. But over a period of 8 years, we improved that from being just a little bit above break even to being at almost a 58% margin on it, and doing it with a team that no one thought was possible to do because of the time difference, because of the education background difference and all. So very proud to have done that, and very proud to have had the opportunity to build this loyal team in India. And I think those things just represent the commitment, the dedication, my openness to new ideas, to different ways of doing things. Everybody, the chips were against us in that everybody's like, you cannot do that with a team from India. You just cannot. The time difference alone is going to kill you. And just getting that buy-in and thinking it through. How can we do it? How do we change the process? How do we change how we do work together? That all made the biggest difference, and believing in them and really training them. So I think on the board, it's helpful to have an open mind. We have a large community. I think Clay mentioned over 1,700 households. Everybody has ideas, and I think it's important to consider the ideas, the input of a lot of people, and bring different perspectives. I bring the perspective of having lived in DC with a HOA community there. We still have a condo right in the heart of DC that has an HOA board that's been, facing some really tough issues with the whole condo development. Having lived in Colorado and had a second home there with an HOA, where my husband served on the board. I didn't, he wanted to do it, but I felt like I did it through him. So I think those perspectives and seeing how important those boards have been in helping our quality of life in these communities and seeing some of the challenges they face, I think it's just a unique perspective to bring to the board here. And I think it's important we all work together, fellow candidates, and that we know each other. And I think all just being respectful of each other and bringing these ideas together, we can form a strong board. I firmly believe it's teamwork, it's collaboration, it's good communication that makes us successful as a team. So with that, I would love and appreciate your support as a writing candidate. My full name's Patricia Carvajal Clough. I have a handout for later to help you remember how to spell it, but would love to serve on the board, take on a new challenge, and I think it would be, I know you said it's not a lot of fun, but I think the fun part of it, willing to put in the hard work and committed to continuing to do we have a strong foundation that we're working with, so it'll be great to continue building on that foundation and looking for opportunities to change as well. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. First of all, I wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with the board this past year and just seeing everything that's been going on and all the changes here in the neighborhood. I wasn't expecting to be chair of the Neighborhood Outreach Committee, which we call the NOC. Thanks to Jim Berg. Thank you again for appointing me to the position. It's been a wonderful experience. I've learned so much from it. In case some of you might not know exactly what the NOC is, it's tasked for welcoming residents. We have events for our residents, and now we have more of a role in communications. We work with the HOA to help with these tasks. Part of my leadership was helping choose the new marquees. I'm hoping y'all are enjoying those and able to see what's going on within the community. Currently, also working on a brand new website. A lot of people have been wanting that, so the HOA, Amber and Sheila, she's been working really hard. Sheila is actually the committee chair for communications for the NOC. And of course, Amber Casillas, I don't know if you know her, but she's also the NOC employee, and thank God she's now a full-time employee. And then what I actually am working right now with the NOC too is when it comes to events is including more of the elderly in our community, because I think that's a part of the community that we have so many people, especially since we've been around about 40 years, and try to create more events for them. And also children of all ages. We see there's a big gap, and since we have such a unique neighborhood, it's very difficult to get people together, and we're trying to form that. So we actually have a junior committee, which is under the events committee, and that committee is headed by Ginger Geyser. So I'm excited to continue with this NOC. Of course, Melora, I'm trying to get permission from her if she doesn't mind if I take over as a liaison for that committee. It's been wonderful working with you too. The reason why I decided to run for the board is because I sat in a few board meetings, like Clay said, and I want to be able to add more input at the board level. I'm happy with so many decisions that have been made this year with the 3 new full-time employees for landscaping, security. Also, of course, now we have Amber to ourselves. I'm very much happy about that because she was spread very thin. We're thriving in so many areas, and it's kind of the beginning, and I want to continue seeing it go and to continue to see the things that we are doing already in the board. And Jim, sorry that you're leaving. He's been doing such a great job leading us. Most importantly, also, I was raised to serve people. I learned growing up from both my parents. My mom was a volunteer until the day she passed away. My dad was one of the few physicians in town that still did geriatric elderly patients in home care. He would do house calls even all the way outside of town. Also, I learned how to serve, and starting in 1999, it's not going to be that long of a story, but I'm working for a U.S. Senator. I worked for Phil Graham. Don't hold that against me. I worked for him as a staff member for 4 years. It was just me and my boss, another young lady, and we worked 42 counties. We had all the area, and my counterparts in the other also had to attend events without him, so we had to represent him in every way. So we were around a lot of angry people, which unfortunately, also being in a neighborhood and people's expectations with the HOA, I'm very familiar with that. So I can deal with that and hopefully find solutions and help find solutions with the HOA and, of course, our board. He was fiscally conservative, so of course I had to learn a lot about not spending a lot of money, and he wanted Whataburger. We didn't do the glamorous staffer life, and we changed batteries for his watch. But we also did presidential elections. We did events. I mean, we were all over the board, and we met with community leaders, business leaders, and I was only 23. The first thing he said is, "Are you even old enough to drive, Deanna?" And I was like, "Yes, sir, I'm 23 years old," because I had braces on. So he wasn't sure about me, but after a little bit, he got to realize that I was there for him, for the constituents. We had so many events that he was probably the only politician I can tell you that would stay in the room after an event to be around all the constituents. Most of the other ones would just take off after they spoke, and that was it. So he taught me that you have to be there for the constituents. And I'm kind of trying to, of course, compare that to me and what I want to do here at the Dominion with the HOA is be there for us, our residents, and what we need. His goal was to see communities thrive, and he saw how, like Laredo had, NAFTA. I mean, then that became one of the largest growing cities in the United States. He saw Austin. I was in the meetings in 1999 with tech, the first tech meetings. We had UT. We had all these students. Why don't we have tech in Austin? I saw all of that like over 20 years ago. Also in towns like San Antonio, biotech, the North Chamber, I saw how working with all these communities with the resources that they have, how they can grow and evolve if they're open to it. And what I'm seeing now with the board that we have, the HOA that we have, and all the people that are committing themselves at the chair level, at the volunteer level, and definitely, again, the resources we have, we can do this. We can continue to thrive and become a better community and do the things that I know some people are concerned about. And I know that we have some people in place that are definitely handling it and working really hard. My background a little bit. I have an MBA. I realized I could not save the world and work in politics and being poor. My first degrees were in psychology and sociology, and I realized that that wasn't going to pay the bills. So I went and got an MBA in 2004, so that kind of helped me a little bit look at finances, look at everything, in a broad way and how it affects a company. I worked 50 to 70 hours a week, so I wanted to stop doing that. Of course, I realized that that still doesn't stop when you're salaried. But my next career, I did get paid a little bit better. I was in pharmaceuticals, I did hospice, and I also did medical device sales. I liked working with my patients. They were my goal. That was my goal, was being patient-centered. And that's why I can say it wasn't really about me, it was about my patients, and I was very successful at it. I was one of the only reps invited for a project because we had these booklets, I can say, in San Antonio that had nutrition. And I don't know about San Antonio, y'all, tacos, right? There was not even a taco in that booklet for, carbohydrate counting. And I was basically tasked as the only rep in the United States to help create this literature, so I was flying everywhere back and forth. Also, common sense-wise, I was kind of intrigued how we would sell a brand new product, a brand new insulin injection or biotech product, and the pharmacists didn't even know how to train the patient. So I led the effort in my region to train pharmacists because, of course, the patient goes to the pharmacist and they're not going to know how to use the product, so how's that going to help the patient? So on top of having to meet sales goals, which in my world, if you don't make your goals, you're fired, I also was involved in all these other projects because for me, it was about the patient. It wasn't just about me. Unfortunately, and I guess I hate to say this, but in 2016, I had to leave my career because I had a couple of accidents. And I love my work, working with patients and also with my dad and being in his practice for years and working for him. By the way, he didn't pay my college, he made me pay myself. So I learned how hard it is to not only be a working person, but also having to pay for everything and do everything yourself. And I finally had met that dream of being a medical device sales rep, and unfortunately I could no longer do that. So I was isolated for about 6 years, and I had to change my whole perspective on life. I met my husband, and when we met, it was after my second surgery. He still knew I had more surgeries to go. We decided to move to Dominion. So we got here, and I remember the first national night out, I met Sharon Berg. I met Nora Pena. I'll never forget these two ladies, because that was the first time in my life that I can say in so long that I was not alone, that there are people out there and there's people that can actually be around me, because most of my friends worked or they were in school or they were doing something else and they could not be around me just because of their hectic lives. And then, unfortunately, COVID happened, but still, even with COVID, it was nice to be here because we would have activities outside. We would at least be around each other in the neighborhood and we would do things. So it wasn't like before, even when I was isolated, it was a different situation, a different environment, and this is an amazing environment because we were able to get together. I can also say that after my right shoulder surgery that I had last year, I even had 5 women come and bring food to my house, which to me, I couldn't drive, I couldn't do anything because I'm right-handed. So everything, again, goes back to how this community has done so much for me, where I want to give back. I feel I have a purpose now outside of my family too, and I have to say part of it was becoming NOC chair. I did PowerPoint presentations for the first time in like 15 years, and to show what the things that we need, our demographics and all the things that we need in communications, and I want to continue to do that. So I hope that you support me. My name is Diana Lenfesti, and if you have any questions after this, please come talk to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. Okay, for our final presentation, Kathy. Kathy's another write-in candidate. Thank you.
Ladies, you did a great job. You inspired me. My name's Kathy Amato, and I'm a write-in candidate for the HOA board. I'm very proud to live in this community in Dominion. I'm kind of like you, Patricia. This is the only place to live. I moved here in 2001. I've lived in the estates, and I'm in the pavilions right now. I chose to live here because I think it is the best place to live in San Antonio. I don't know if y'all saw in the paper this week where they were doing the zip codes about the homes with the most value. 78257 in the city of San Antonio has the most expensive real estate by far, every other zip code. So we are, I believe, the premier community in San Antonio. I moved here because of the great security at Dominion. National industry boards, as well as a lot of not-for-profit here in the San Antonio market. 3 key areas that I think are critical to our community is, of course, security. When I think about security, I think about all the cars going through the gate, the perimeter of our premises, as well as patrol. I know I think we have like 45,000 visitors go through the gate a month, something like that. That's huge. I mean, you think about how to manage that. But again, doing what we can to make these processes better. Curb appeal, our landscaping, what our community looks like, again, and with the water, with drought, and how all of that fits together. Always making the best choices for who our land. I'm sure security is our #1 item on the budget, and then our landscaping has to be #2. And then third, other services that are in the community, such as waste, our trash pickup, and utilities, any things that the community gives to the residents here. I want to just say that it's a lot of work to be part of any board, and it's a time commitment. I will, if elected, I'll work hard for the best interests of all of you, because you're my neighbors and my friends. I've met a lot of friends here. So with that saying, I'm a write-in candidate. My name's Kathy Amato, and it's nice to meet you ladies. Thank you.
So good afternoon. My name is Jeff Kistner. Clay had to leave a few minutes early. He asked